What happens when a father can't love the child who reminds him of his greatest tragedy? Alice Roosevelt Longworth, abandoned as a baby, forbidden to know her mother, raised in a household where she was always slightly apart, found an answer. She became impossible to ignore. Smoking on the White House roof, carrying a snake in her purse, gambling at racetracks, staying out until dawn, shocking Victorian America with every move. Theodore Roosevelt famously said he could be president or control Alice, but not both. This is the story of America's first celebrity bad girl, the rebellious daughter who spent 96 years trying to get her father's attention and never quite succeeded. To understand Alice Roosevelt's rebellion, you must first understand the wound that drove it. Born on February 12, 1884, Alice arrives into a world of tragedy. Her mother, Alice Lee Roosevelt, dies just 2 days later from kidney disease that pregnancy had masked. Upstairs in the same mansion, Theodore's mother, Mittie, dies of typhoid fever. Within 11 hours on Valentine's Day, Theodore loses both his wife and his mother. The newborn Alice becomes a living reminder of unbearable grief. Theodore cannot look at his daughter without seeing the wife he lost. The baby has her mother's features, her coloring, the promise of her golden hair. Every cry pierces Theodore like a knife. He makes a decision that will shape Alice's entire life. He gives the 3-day-old infant to his older sister Anna, called Bamie by the family, and flees to the Dakota Territory. For the first 3 years of Alice's life, she lives with Aunt Bamie in New York, while her father rides through the Badlands trying to outrun his grief. When Theodore finally returns and marries Edith Caro in December 1886, 3-year-old Alice is brought into a household where she will never quite belong. Edith is Theodore's childhood sweetheart, someone he knew long before Alice Lee. Now, with the first wife dead, Theodore and Edith resume their relationship as if those years never happened. They settle at Sagamore Hill and begin having children: Theodore Jr., Kermit, Ethel, Archibald, and Quentin. These 5 form the real family, bound together by their mother, Edith, and their father's easy affection. And then there is Alice, the half-sister, the reminder, the complication. Theodore loves Alice, but he cannot express it with pain. Edith tries to be a good stepmother, but she resents the beautiful first wife's ghost. The younger siblings unconsciously mirror the adults' attitudes, making Alice feel like an outsider in her own family. The most devastating wound is the silence. Alice is forbidden to ask about her mother. No photographs of Alice Lee are displayed. No stories are told. Theodore refuses to speak the name. When Alice tries to learn about the woman who gave her life, Theodore leaves the room or changes the subject with barely controlled emotion. The message Alice receives is brutally clear. Your existence causes pain. Your mother's memory is too terrible to bear. You are loved, but you are also a burden. Alice's response is to become unforgettable. If she cannot earn her father's affection through being good, she will demand his attention through being impossible. If Theodore will not look at her with love, he will look at her with exasperation. Either way, she will be seen. On September 14, 1901, an assassin's bullet changes everything. President William McKinley dies from his wounds, and Theodore Roosevelt becomes president at 42. The Roosevelt family moves into the White House, and 17-year-old Alice suddenly finds herself with the ultimate stage for rebellion, the most famous house in America, with every newspaper in the country watching her every move. In January 1902, the White House hosts Alice's debutante ball. It is one of the first major social events of the Roosevelt presidency. Alice wears a white gown and carries herself with confidence that borders on arrogance. The press is immediately captivated. She is beautiful, charming, witty, and utterly uncontrollable. They nickname her Princess Alice, and America falls in love. What follows is a rebellion that scandalizes Victorian America and creates the template for every famous daughter of power who comes after. Alice smokes cigarettes constantly, forbidden behavior for respectable women in 1902. When Theodore tells her no daughter of his will smoke under his roof, Alice climbs onto the White House roof and smokes above it, technically complying while mockingly defying him. The press loves it. The public is horrified and fascinated in equal measure. She carries a pet snake in her purse, naming it Emily Spinach after her Aunt Emily, whom Alice dislikes. She brings the snake to parties, draping it over her shoulders, enjoying the shocked reactions. It becomes her signature, the beautiful first daughter with a serpent, like some modern Eve refusing to obey the rules of paradise. Alice gambles openly at racetracks, placing bets despite laws against women gambling. She drives automobiles at dangerous speeds through Washington streets. She stays out until dawn at parties, returning to the White House at hours that scandalize the staff. She is seen in the company of married men, prompting whispers about affairs. She wears revealing dresses that show her shoulders and ankles, shocking for the era. A color is named after her, Alice Blue, a pale, powdery shade that becomes the fashion sensation of the decade. Songs are written about her, products are marketed using her name and image. She becomes America's first celebrity in the modern sense, famous simply for being herself, bold, beautiful, and unapologetic. Behind the glamour and the headlines, Alice is fighting a psychological battle. Every act of rebellion is a message to her father. See me, acknowledge me, focus on me. If Theodore cannot love her with pain, at least she can make him pay attention through exasperation. The strategy works, but not in the way Alice hopes. Theodore is indeed forced to deal with his daughter constantly. White House staff bring him reports of her latest scandal. Social reformers write letters complaining about the first daughter's influence on American women. Theodore tries to discipline Alice, leading to explosive arguments behind closed doors. But the attention Alice craves, genuine affection, emotional connection, acknowledgement of the mother she never knew, remains forever out of reach. Theodore cannot give what he does not have. The grief he buried on Valentine's Day 1884 stays buried, and Alice can never reach through that wall. Theodore's famous quote captures his defeat. "I can be president of the United States, or I can control Alice. I cannot possibly do both." The press loves the quote. It makes Theodore seem like an indulgent father dealing with a spirited daughter. But the truth is darker. Theodore has no idea how to reach the daughter who represents everything he lost. In 1905, Theodore sends Alice on a diplomatic mission to Asia, partly to showcase American soft power, partly to get her out of Washington for a few months. Alice travels to Japan, Korea, China, and the Philippines. She charms foreign dignitaries, generates positive press coverage, and has affairs with several men in the traveling party, including Congressman Nicholas Longworth from Ohio, 15 years her senior. When Alice returns, she announces her engagement to Longworth. The wedding in February 1906 becomes the social event of the decade. It is held at the White House with 1,000 guests. Alice wears white satin and carries orchids. But in a gesture that perfectly captures her rebellious spirit, she cuts the wedding cake with a military sword, a symbolic rejection of traditional femininity. The marriage is troubled from the start. Nicholas is an alcoholic who has multiple affairs. Alice retaliates with affairs of her own, most notably with Senator William Borah of Idaho. The affair with Borah produces Alice's only child, Paulina, born in 1925 when Alice is 41. Paulina is almost certainly Borah's child, though Alice maintains the fiction throughout Nicholas's lifetime. Alice's dark humor about the situation is legendary. She wanted to name the child Deborah, as in Deborah. Alice stays married to Nicholas until his death in 1931, but it is a marriage of political convenience. What Alice truly loves is power, politics, and Washington society. She becomes one of the city's most influential hostesses, holding salons where politicians, diplomats, and journalists gather to gossip and scheme. Alice collects secrets and wields them strategically, making and breaking reputations with well-placed comments. Her famous motto, embroidered on a pillow in her living room, captures her philosophy perfectly. "If you haven't got anything nice to say about anybody, come sit next to me." Alice revels in gossip and cutting wit, preferring sharp truth to polite fiction. As decades pass, Alice outlives everyone from her father's generation. Theodore dies in 1919. Edith dies in 1948. All 5 of her half-siblings predecease her. She outlives Franklin Roosevelt and Eleanor, whom Alice had been her favorite cousin in childhood, but Alice later describes as endlessly tiresome and self-righteous. Alice remains a fixture in Washington society until her death in February 1980, at age 96. She lives through 2 world wars, the Depression, the Cold War, Watergate, and Vietnam. She attends dinners at the White House under 12 different presidents. She is called the other Washington